Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. So we are 2 games into the season for the Philadelphia 76ers. So keep in mind, anything that anyone says at this point is going to be an overreaction just because we can only go off of the small sample size of the season that we have thus far and everything. But with that being said, you know, I've talked about the Sixers a little bit. This is a team that essentially I'm going to say is my favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference going into the season. Like, that's the team I had in my mind. But also, you know, take that with a grain of salt because I said that last season when they acquired James Harden at the NBA trade deadline, right? So, talking about the Sixers, I have a lot of fans from the fan base saying things like, yo, Crispy, I know they're 0-2, but they have played 2 of the best teams in the NBA in the Bucks and the Celtics. And I'm going to say, if you're a rebuilding team or a middle-of-the-road team, I think that excuse is okay. But the fact of the matter is that the 76ers, they are also supposed to be one of the best teams in the NBA, so you would hope that they can beat the best teams in the NBA. But once again, pretty much an overreaction at this point because it's only 2 games into the season. But James Harden is looking like MVP Harden again. He's looking like the Houston Rockets James Harden, which I think could be a good thing and a bad thing given certain context of the situation. So James Harden on the season so far in 2 games is averaging 33 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, shooting 38% from 3 off 8 attempts, and shooting overall 58% field goal percentage. So yeah, you would say, wow, the 76ers should be in a really good place. The issue is that I'm not so sure this version of James Harden can properly coexist with Joel Embiid. Not saying they can't get there in time, but I do think for Harden to have this version of him, Joel Embiid is essentially going to have to rework the way that he plays the game of basketball. You know, for so many seasons, it's been, you know, give the ball to Embiid and watch out. Now, when the playoffs roll around, you have a lot of, you know, great defensive centers out there that, you know, they're double teaming Embiid and everything. And he can still get his numbers. But for many years, it was just that there wasn't really a lot of, like, other, like, shot creators out there to make the 76ers have maximized success. Like, the Sixers have always been a good team with Embiid, but have not won a championship yet, right? So this season now, you have James Harden in a lot more isolation situations, and really just like what I've seen from the Sixers so far has been such a simplistic type of offense that I think they have room to do a bit better. I feel like Doc Rivers, you would think he's a good enough coach that he can be a little bit more creative when you have one of the best multi-tooled centers of all time in Joel Embiid, and also one of the most multi-tooled, you know, guards of all time in James Harden. But all I've really seen is a lot of isolation with Harden, and I will say that the greatest success I have seen, because it's been a lot of isolation, a lot of pick and rolls, things along those lines, have that be with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, James Harden and Joel Embiid, the occasional, you know, Tobias Harris post up or really just isolation situation with him where he's finding his own shot and everything, but a lot of simplicity, right? The issue though is that when they're playing their best is when James Harden and Joel Embiid is running that pick and roll, and, you know, that ball goes over to Embiid, and he's patient with it. When he's patient with it, making the additional pass or not, you know, forcing it into a double team, I noticed they've been pretty damn good in everything. But the issue is that Embiid seems to not be very patient right now. It seems like when he is getting in those situations, he's either forcing the shot up or just making the wrong play. And it's leading to, well, I'm going to read you guys his numbers. He's averaging 20 points, 14 rebounds, but, you know, that's just not enough context right there. He's shooting 22% from 3, which if that remains the case, then teams are just going to leave him wide open from the arc. And, you know, when he's running that pick and pop with James Harden, they're just going to collapse on Harden every single time and just let Embiid do his thing out there. Shooting overall, though, 38% field goal percentage off about 20 attempts per game. He's actually shooting more than James Harden and putting up these abysmal numbers. Now, like I was saying, it's the start of the NBA season. Sometimes guys don't come into the season completely conditioned and ready to go. But also, I get a little nervous with just the way that the offense is being orchestrated, because James Harden has never really played with a center like Embiid before. Just, you know, think about the Houston Rocket days. It was a lot of Clint Capella, or even on the Brooklyn Nets, it was Nicholas Claxton. 2 centers that remain around the rim, you know, going to set hard picks, roll to the basket. And you know that that's all they're going to do. You know, they're not going to be catching the ball on the perimeter and trying to do some things with like Joel Embiid. And that worked on the Houston Rockets. Like, we all know James Harden put up historical numbers in that style of offense. I call it the hero ball offense, which is fun to watch. So, well, it's fun to watch sometimes. When that is, like, the main focus point of your offense, it gets kind of old after a bit. You know, like, for those first 2 seasons or whatnot, when James Harden was putting up those legendary numbers, like, wow, this is really cool. After a bit, it's just like, okay, this is not really going to lead to success. And we're seeing that right now with James Harden putting up really good numbers, looking at, like, MVP form. But everything else is pretty limited. The rest of the Sixers team, you got, you know, Tyrese Maxey. He's doing all right, averaging 18 points per game, but that's really all he's providing to the team right now. He's not really doing much as far as being a playmaker, you know, rebound the basketball, anything along those lines. Tobias Harris averaging 14 points, 6 rebounds per game, shooting 40% from 3, which is, you know, good fourth option numbers, but this dude's paid like a top option in the NBA. So even that's going to have to get going. You know, in that first game against the Celtics, I forgot the score exactly, but I do know that, you know, this game against the Bucks, both teams were kind of struggling offensively, Bucks being their first game and Chris Middleton being out and everything. So, you know, I guess at that point, the offenses were kind of matching each other's energy. But the fact that James Harden did put up what was like 31 points and they only scored like 88 in total is very concerning. The bench unit has done nothing at all. Like, I'm looking at the stats right here. D'Anthony Melton's been fine, averaging 7 points per game. Daniel House, the next leader, at 2.5. 1.5 for Niang. Montrez isn't doing anything. Matisse Thybulle's not playing at all. And even PJ Tucker as a starter. Yeah, we're not expecting PJ Tucker to drop no damn 20 points per game and really to be out there just for like defensive reasons. But that makes it even more important. When you put guys into the lineup where you're like, all right, your role is simply just defense, then it's up to the offensive guys to take on even more of a consistent scoring load. So PJ Tucker's not going to work in the lineup if Joel Embiid cannot figure things out. So yeah, it just makes me wonder if overall, if Harden can play with Embiid, and if Embiid can play with Harden, and both these guys can still play their best basketball, and it still work out this way. Because even when Embiid's, you know, playing his top basketball, then the ball's in his hands a lot, then James Harden really has to learn to play off ball in an offensive set. And we've not really seen that too much since the really the OKC Thunder days. I mean, even when I was in the Brooklyn Nets, like, he was still playing the point guard position. He was still getting nearly the highest assist numbers in the NBA. And I think I heard it on the broadcast or something. I don't know what it was exactly, but they said something like, instead of James Harden focusing on running the offense and then scoring, maybe Harden has to score more on, has focused more on scoring, you know, playing off ball and getting himself in scoring positions, and let somebody else orchestrate the offense, because then obviously that's going to lead to a lot more touches for Embiid in ways that he probably wants it, and not really just in like pick and pop situations and everything, which I still think right now that's the best route if this is how Doc Rivers is going to run things with James Harden. But even beyond that, like Tyrese Maxey, I'm going to pull up his stats on my end here real quick here, man, because Tyrese Maxey, career assists per game is at 3. So, I mean, beyond James Harden, they don't really have like that next playmaker on the squad to even really try that out. So I don't know if it's really going out there and, well, I don't know, because you want Tyrese Maxey starting too. That's my thing with him too. So it's like, it's kind of built around James Harden being the primary ball handler, but we're seeing what that does with Joel Embiid's stats. So yeah, what do you guys all think about that? I mean, beyond that, you know, you had the Clippers and Lakers play, and let me pull up their stats here on the night. Yeah, John Wall, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. That was definitely a lot of fun to just watch him come back and everything. I know he was a pretty solid player on the Houston Rockets, averaging like, what was it, 20 points, 8 assists per game, catching, shooting like 42% from 3, which is nice. And then obviously, you know, we know the whole story of John Wall and just kind of like some of the darker moments he's been through for the past few seasons. So just seeing him back in a more limited type of role where he's not asked to do as much but can still play to his strengths is really nice to see. Kawhi Leonard was back, obviously on a minutes restriction, only played about 20 minutes in the game, but you know, with the exception of missing some shots that he normally would make, like Kawhi Leonard obviously playing like Kawhi Leonard, right? And that's just being an assassin on the offensive end and being one of the best two-way players in the NBA. My dude Luke Kennard was 3 for 3 from 3, so, you know, knocking down for him and everything. And yeah, Zubac was great, 17 rebounds, 5 blocks. Paul George only at 15 and 10. But you got the Lakers side of things, man. You know, LeBron, 20-10-6, AD, 25 and 8. Like, doing what they need to do. Russell Westbrook shot 0 for 11. And I will say 0 for 11, that's horrible. That's atrocious as an NBA player. At least it wasn't 0 for 28. You know what I'm saying? And like, Russell Westbrook, if he's not making his shots, it is nice to see that he's not completely forcing things up. Like, he should be taking 11 shots per game. I will give him that. But if he's playing that bad and jacking things up, that's only going to take away from the rest of the team. But really, like, this team's just, their spacing's atrocious, man. They have no three-point shooters whatsoever. And that's just not a recipe for success around not only Russell Westbrook, but also LeBron James. Like, LeBron James has always been surrounded by three-point shooters. You know, have that be Boobie Gibson, Damon Jones back on the Cleveland Cavaliers a long time ago, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, you know, Mike Miller, Shane Battier, Ray Allen on the Miami Heat. So just like the way that the Lakers have built around LeBron, yeah, I know you can kind of only work with what you got as far as the assets you have to trade. And the big issue is that they gave up so many assets to get Anthony Davis that they kind of fell into that nice pocket, you know, back in 2020 during the bubble where the team was orchestrated and formulated correctly. But then after that, they just didn't really have the assets. You know, when you win championships, a lot of players, they're like, wow, I was a big part of this. Let me go seek out, you know, more lucrative opportunities elsewhere as far as, you know, getting larger contracts and everything. And it's really hard to keep some of those championship teams together. And that's basically what went on, is just that they either trade away the assets left, and they're kind of left just with what they got, man. So what do you guys think the Lakers should do at this point? Do you think it's a matter of actually trading Russell Westbrook to the Pacers for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner and those 2 first-round picks they got to give up? We know Miles Turner is going to be out for like a week now, so that makes it a little wary with his injury. Buddy Hield would fit in perfectly on the Lakers. Like, let's all be honest about that. But it still makes me nervous that that's not going to be enough for them to win a championship. That's the goal, is win a championship. If you make that big-time trade and you barely make the playoffs, or you make the play-in tournament, or you get out in the first or second round, then you just find yourself in a situation where you no longer have these assets. And, you know, at that point, Russell Westbrook's contract is up and everything on the Pacers. So it's like the Lakers could have just dealt with that, had that cap space for next free agency, and built the team that way. But it's just a lot of risk, man, because if the Lakers make a big-time trade and the team just doesn't win a championship out of it, then you're looking at a situation that when LeBron does retire, you have like no draft picks. You have nothing for your next rebuild, and it's going to be years and years and years of mediocrity, because by the time you actually start getting draft picks and allowing yourself to be in those situations to, you know, draft those top 5 players, then you have to go through the rebuild process and making sure that you actually land the right picks. And yeah, they got the Lakers brand. I think there's always going to be stars that want to play in LA and everything, but I don't know, man. I feel like the Lakers are in a really difficult spot. I think the best course of action is just to kind of maybe write things off and be like, hey, we got LeBron 80. Let's see what happens. But I'm not trading away my entire future to marginally increase the chance of winning a championship. If it was a home run, then I would say, yeah, maybe go for it. But it's not a home run with that type of trade, man. So that's all we got for today's video. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying these NBA discussion type of things. Loving that the NBA season is back. Loving that I can do these type of videos, have things to talk about. So that's all we got. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace out, my friends.